Okay, so you want to charge really high rates. I'm talking $200 an hour or more. Maybe you're trying to get up to the $300 to $400 to $500 an hour range. Is that even possible? It is, even though that does seem pretty crazy. So what does that really mean to charge that level? Well, we already know that it's a lot of money. That's kind of simple. However, there is something you have to think about when you want to start charging those rates. Now, I have at the most charged $500 an hour. Now, before you go thinking that I make $500 an hour, let me preface this. I have only done that once, and here's how long the contract was. 2 hours. And this was many years ago. I was contracted to solve a very particular problem for a client that was in a lot of pain for a particular problem they had with their app. They were getting a bunch of 1-star reviews. I was able to quickly hop in, take a look at some of their code, run the app, see exactly what the problem was instantly, kind of did a quick code review, and within 2 hours, I was able to determine just through some quick tests how to solve all of their problems, and I showed them what they needed to do, and then they went off with their developer and fixed all the issues. So to them, a $500 an hour consulting engagement for 2 hours was a steal. They went from nothing but 1-star reviews to back up to 4 to 5-star reviews from that point forward. It was just a simple mistake that the developer had made that he wasn't aware of how to fix. So I hopped in there and was able to help them. Now, does that mean that I'm charging $500 an hour now? No. So that's what you have to think about here is there's a risk versus a long-term benefit that you're going to have when you're building higher rates. Now, the same thing goes for if you're only charging $40 an hour right now and you want to get to $80 an hour, you want to get to $120 an hour. There's different ways in which you need to think about this. The higher end rates that you're going to charge, you're going to find less and less clients. The pool of clientele gets smaller and smaller as their pain is going to be much different. And the people that are going to pay a lot of money are looking for very specialized talent and for someone who can get in there and complete a project at hand with guarantees and so forth. And what you'll find a lot is that a lot of companies that pay these rates will typically contract with agencies, and these are very well-known consulting agencies that will charge anywhere from $300 to $400 an hour to implement a particular system that helps automate and save the company multi-millions of dollars per year. Now, that whole installation maybe even cost a couple $1 million because of those rates. Yet, however, their long-term vision is that it's going to save multiples of what the investment it costs to implement said solution. The same thing goes for your freelancing and your consulting. If you want to charge these exorbitant rates, $200, $300, $400 an hour or more, you have to realize that your contracts are probably going to be very short. The company's not going to want to pay this for a year, 2 years, 5 years long because of how much money it costs. They want that problem solved as soon as possible, and they're willing to pay a premium for that. If you have a very particular set of knowledge around a specific domain, maybe perhaps you're in real estate and you've built something that's very specific to solve a particular pain point, you can charge much more based on that because of the value of it. However, if you're just a general, maybe web developer, maybe mobile developer, and you're just regular building screens, you're not going to be able to charge as much unless you have a particular skill set that a client is looking for and is willing to pay. Meaning that you can't just say, hey, my rate is $250 an hour. Most likely you're not going to find any clients out there. The pool is so small. These contracts are going to be very short if you're charging these very, very high rates. And unless you're working for an agency and you've landed a very big gig, they are out there. I'm not saying they don't exist, yet they're very hard to find. So I wouldn't bet on finding them all the time. Now, what does that mean for you? Does that mean that your cost of living is so much lower that you can have a client every 2 months for a week at a time and you can live that way? If that's the case, fantastic. I would love that. I think everybody would. However, most people don't live in that world, and most people need continual cash flow because we all have bills, we have mortgages, we have kids, we have responsibilities in life. And so a lot of time you just need consistent cash flow. So one of the things you need to consider is how big is this project going to be, and can you continually help this client with other things as well? And if you can find other areas of opportunity in which you can help that client, so maybe you're going to come in and fix this particular problem, but you see there's 10 other things you could help them with, you can also sell them on those other services and say, hey, I can also help you build out your continuous integration server, your DevOps platform. I can help you build your cross-platform application, or maybe you have experience in Android and iOS and you could build both. Maybe you have a lot of experience with Python and they have a Python backend system that you could also help them with. What you could do at this point is offer to lower your rate for an extended contract. So instead of maybe a 1-month gig at a couple $100 an hour, you might lower that to $150 an hour, maybe $125 an hour if they agree to sign you on to a 3 to 6 month contract or longer. Then at that point, what this does is buy you some stability and additional cash flow that's guaranteed through the contract. Again, contracts can be canceled, I know, but it does buy you that peace of mind that the contract is going to be longer. And then at that point in time, you can lower your rates. It's basically a way of hedging your bets that you're going to have a client long-term versus a short-term client that's worth a lot more. Which one is for you? That's something you're going to have to decide. A lot of people are very risk averse, meaning that they don't want to have to place a bet on a short and small supply of clients that are only going to be around for a week or less because they're charging exorbitant rates. If you can live that lifestyle and you can find those clients, that's fantastic. Congratulations, you're probably living the dream. For most people, they're either getting into freelancing or consulting and they want to build a larger pipeline of clients so that they can start living a more autonomous life where they're working remotely, they have more time with their family after work, they're not commuting, and freelancing provides them that ability. I mean, for me, if I'd like to, today I could hop on a plane, I could go to Florida, I could work out of the hotel room during my work day, get off work and go out in the evenings and afternoon if I wanted to. I would still be working full time for my client. My clients don't care where I work from. I don't go into the client's office. So that's a level of autonomy and freedom that it buys me. Again, depending upon your rates and what you want to do is dependent on what your ultimate goals are for how long you want your contract to be. So that's the thing you need to take into consideration. Charge very high rates. Your contracts are most likely going to be very, very short. Charge rates that are more reasonable. Then you have more negotiation power to extend the length of that contract over longer periods of time. Now, what you might notice is if you're going to charge a few $100s an hour, maybe your contract might be worth anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 just for that short contract, maybe $10,000. However, what you realize is if there's some way for you to drop your rate down to $125, down to $150 from an exorbitant amount, or maybe down to $100, whatever your realm is, you might calculate it out and see that this client is actually going to net you a lot more. So what does that mean? It means the LTV of that client, LTV means lifetime value of that client goes up. So if you're going to charge a lot for a short contract, that might be, let's say $5,000. The LTV of that client is $5,000. Now, if you were to drop that rate and be able to sell them on some additional services over a long period of time, you might find that the contract goes up from anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 for that client. So if you're charging $100 to $150 an hour, you can land a 3, 6, 12-month gig. Well, just do the math. You can find out that the LTV, the lifetime value of that client, goes through the roof. So again, depends on which one you want. Do you want the short term and you don't have to be there that long and don't commit too much? Or do you want the longer term and perhaps have more revenue? Again, this depends on if you're able to find a lot of these clients are going to pay a lot of money. Maybe you just do that for a few months. But maybe if you don't want that and you have other commitments and you want more of a stable thing, you look for a longer term contract. So again, it's up to you what you really want to do. I have tried both. I usually prefer the longer term contracts as it's just more stable and it doesn't require me to stress out and have a lot of time in my hands to be searching for the next client, which is from a very small pool of individuals. So find what works best for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments and I'll give you the best help that I can. I hope that helps.